Welcome into Texans on Tap. I'm Brandon Strange alongside Charlie Palullo and Josh Jordan. You can follow them on X at Palullo and at Josh Jordan 975. Josh, Charlie, welcome in. This was a game no one saw coming. Certainly not us, not Vegas, not Jacksonville. Awful start, as bad as a start as you could have to a game. They were down 10-0 early at Houston, that is, then down 29-10 going into the fourth quarter, then run off 21 straight to retake the lead and then seal it with that defensive pick six from the combo of Will Anderson Jr., Sheldon Rankin. Second largest comeback in Texans franchise history, and they do it without CJ Stroud. So, yep, it just shows you sports is going to sports sometimes. The defense was obviously a critical part of the comeback, but we would be remiss if we didn't start with Davis Mills and the offense. Charlie, we start with you. Tell me what you saw from this unlikely comeback in the offense.
What are the chances CJ Stroud has any idea who Wally Pipp was? Well, for those who don't know who Wally Pipp was, look it up. No quarterback controversy looming. There was no belief in Davis Mills for a number of reasons. A relatively small percentage of his family and friends, if shot up with truth serum, would have believed Davis Mills leading the kind of comeback that he did. So good for him. If it's every dog has his day, I mean, this is a win that maybe it just goes down as a glorious footnote in a failed Texan season, right? Momentum, that overrated term, because the Texans had zero of it going into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden they had all of it. But they've given themselves a chance to get into the fight now. But Mills, a brutal interception early, clean after that. And of course, in the end, he wins the game with his legs, which exactly zero people would have drawn up. So many layers to this. Imagine Jaguars on tap, right? Jacksonville's franchise. I mean, this is a low point.
Yeah.
It's an epic choke. You're up 29-10 in the fourth quarter. I don't care if you are playing Lombardi's Packers at Lambeau Field in the 60s. You're up 29-10 in the fourth quarter, much less against the Texans and Davis Mills. So Jacksonville folded. The epically, I don't know if overrated is even the right word, but overpaid, the mediocrity that is Trevor Lawrence. He was a stink bomb really most of the game. Certainly in the fourth quarter, Davis Mills ultimately grossly outplays the $55 million per year Jaguars quarterback. So, hey, thousands of people left NRG Stadium by the start of the fourth quarter. I don't know if they were scrambling to try to get back in late in the fourth quarter, but a bunch of people are going to ultimately be lying about, hey, I was there the day the Texans came back and won that game, because you don't get to say you were there when they came back and won the game when you left early. Not that I'm blaming those who left early.
Yeah, early on, it was a tough watch, no doubt about it. But for me, it started with the Texans making some changes on offense, getting Jarrett Patterson in there at left guard. A couple of weeks ago, Laken Tomlinson, we're running behind him trying to score against the Seahawks, and now he can't even get on the field. So, my Lord, guys, it took you long enough, but you finally made the right decision. You saw Trent Brown in there at right tackle. Scruggs didn't start, but he got in there at right guard because the play was so poor that he had to come in. So just excellent. Also getting some more adjustments, getting Woody Marks on the field some more. The other thing is, I mean, Jaden Higgins catching passes, and Jalen Noel out there making plays too. What a difference it makes when you actually get your talented, fast rookies the ball, make them part of the offense. And of course, Dalton Schultz came up big again. Nico, another huge game, some awesome catches. But it was those other guys. It was Woody Marks. It was Jaden Higgins. It was Noel. And I noticed Christian Kirk was not nearly on the field that much. So, and then I also noticed after the fumble early on, all of a sudden Jalen Noel was returning kicks, something that we've kind of been asking for. We know he's been returning punts, but let's get our explosive guys out on the field. They did that today. Way to go. And the offense, it actually looked like it had a pulse. And you hit on it. Davis Mills, he outplayed Trevor Lawrence today.
Jacksonville folded. And a critical element was the back-to-back 3-and-outs, putting the defense on the field after the Texans had a 13-play, a touchdown drive. I mean, a 93-yard drive ultimately wins the game. But at the end of the third quarter, this game's 29-10 after the Texans had given it up on downs. Even the statistics, right? Jacksonville didn't have 100 yards of offense in the first half, Well, the Texans offense was lousy, got that late first half touchdown that, well, kind of kept them in touch, though they would fall farther behind. But that, you complete a 52-yard Hail Mary when you're 60 yards from the end zone. I mean, talk about empty calorie stats. So an absolute 180-degree turn. It's a zero-sum game. So from Jacksonville's perspective, they blew it. They blew it. From the Texan standpoint, what a comeback. They took it away. In the end, it's the same. The Texans now 4-5. The Jaguars 5-4. They split the season series. So the Texans climb into the fight in the wild card mix. It's still an uphill climb. They're going to have to beat either at least the Bills or the Chiefs, I think. But, the Bills will get clobbered by the Dolphins on Sunday. The Chiefs aren't quite what they used to be. The Texans also may have to beat out the Chargers for a wild card spot. Well, they play the Chargers in December. So their season was corpus delicti had they lost and gotten swept by the Jaguars. But an all-time rescue. You mentioned, Brandon, the second largest comeback in franchise history. Back in 2013, opening day against the Chargers. They were down 28-7 in the second half. Matt Schaub throws a couple of touchdown passes. Brian Cushing with a pick six. And then Randy Bullock with a game-winning field goal as time expired. Now, the 2013 Texans, pretty good team, but no one really remembers that comeback because the season ultimately didn't amount to all that much. We'll see what's the final tally and tale of the 2025 Houston Texans.
Yeah, when this game started out, my first thoughts were, especially that the entirety of the first half, was this is why the Texans are 3-5. But then also looking at the Jags going, how are they 5-3? It was so sloppy. And then you see what happened in the second half. I like what you talked about, Josh, about the adjustments, because I'm looking on the stat sheet and I see, to your point, Kirk only had 3 targets. I see no targets and no touches for Dare Ogunbowale. So there you go. There was one of the things that you talked about in the preview. Talked about, hey, like let's hone in on your younger talented guys. There's a reason why you drafted these guys, and you saw some breakout performances here. I mean, honestly, it was I think the suffocating defense that allowed the offense to stay on the field as long as they did. And then you saw really the combination of Marks and Chubb really let the air out of the ball, that 93-yard drive where they just really, and it was crazy because they had used 2 timeouts to avoid delay of game penalties. So they only had 1 timeout to work with, and yet just drive the field and absolutely suck the life out of Jacksonville. And when you're down like that and you only have a few minutes to go, you very rarely see a team go to that run game, but they were so confident because they could see that the defensive line for Jacksonville was completely winded, and they absolutely exploited that. So that, I think, is a tremendous play call and recognition. We talk about feel and the lack of feel that Nick Caley has had. He absolutely read that situation perfectly. And again, I know I've seen in the comments, and I know we are talking about it. It was a sloppy game, but you got to at least enjoy these comebacks, these miraculous comebacks when you have them, because who knows what the rest of the season is going to look like. But that was a great game to watch. So let's talk about that defense, because they absolutely came up clutch, especially in the fourth quarter. And the third quarter, just 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. What did you guys see? I mean, we probably have to start with Danielle Hunter, who was MIA for most of the season. We've talked about it, and then comes up with 4 sacks in this game. Charlie, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts on this defense that just came up so clutch for Houston on Sunday?
Well, Hunter was a monster. He's been having a very good season.
Yeah.
I just hadn't been coming up with the sack numbers that he did last year, but his pressures, his win rate as a pass rusher, he's been fine. It's just Will Anderson's been getting home, and the glamour statistic, the number one that you look at for pass rushers, is sacks. Well, Hunter officially credited with 3.5 in this game. He was just hell on wheels. He and Anderson, an elite tandem. Derek Stingley, who's been kind of spotty in his play relative certainly to what he did last year. Last week, missed an interception he could have made, plays the ball so well. In this game, tremendous, basically one-handed interception, diving underneath the route to make that pick. And Jacksonville's offense, If you want to use the choke word, okay. One drive ended where Lawrence basically threw the ball at Shire, just never sees the linebacker, didn't make the pick, but ended that drive. And then at the very end, you have 7 seconds left. Lawrence holds the ball, and then throws the pick six. And one more cherry on the sundae. For those who gave 1.5 or 2.5 on the Texans, you hit the jackpot. They pull a game out of the fire and they cover the spread. So Jags fans who at least were going to get a cover at a 30-29 loss, you didn't even get that. Lose, lose, lose.
Yeah, for sure. I was really impressed with the defense overall. You didn't have Jalen Petrie in this game, so you're like, are they going to be able to step up and slow down the passing attack? And they were able to. And there was no Brian Thomas Jr. Hunter's hurt, so I know they picked up Jacoby Myers and Trey, but Washington had a nice game. But overall, this isn't a team today that's just loaded with offensive firepower. So I was happy to see that the Texans could keep them in check. Man, that interception by Stingley was just amazing. I can't believe he got to that ball. And then he just made such a smooth transition and catch with it. Really, really talented player. I know that's obvious. But, yeah, you needed him today. I thought Lassiter had another good game. So he's aggressive, man. He does not mind hitting dudes, and he's really good in coverage. I think for me, though, of course, the defense was great, and we come to expect that. But I think the reason they won today was because of the red zone opportunities. They came into this game, they were the worst red zone team in football. Today, they were 4 for 5. So that just shows you when the defense, doesn't have to keep watching you kick field goals and you can actually put some touchdowns on the board when you're close. It makes a big difference. And you hit on it, Brandon. The Texans weren't the tired defense at the end of this game. It was the Jaguars this week, and that made a big difference for them. So just really impressive. The one thing I will caution is when they got down to score that final touchdown of the game, Woody Marks scores, but then you have like a false start. And then a couple plays later, you have another false start. So they started that drive on like the 2-yard line, and they ended up like on the 14 when Mills had to scamper and get that touchdown. So for a while there, it was a little hit or miss. These guys are going backwards again in the red zone, but they got it together. They won the game, so give them credit for that. They made the plays they needed to make to get the dub today.
And further defensively, Petrie is a good player, but he's not elite. But when you're without him, you're worse off. Ditto, MJ Stewart, who really only got in there when CJ Gardner-Johnson was a bum, essentially. They got rid of him. Then you lose Stewart, right? The whole next man up thing. And in a close game, a questionable call that goes your way can be a big difference maker or can just kill you, right? The Texans had been 0 for the season in one-score games until this one. And Christian Kirk, pretty quiet. He's the guy on the go route on that last drive. Pretty questionable whistle against Jarrian Jones, the defensive back, right? If the roles are reversed, you're a Texans fan saying, oh, that's incidental contact. Well, the call is made. You're given the opportunity. You take advantage of it. Yes, even if it took extra snaps and yardage because of the false starts, and they had the delay of game. So over 60 minutes, they weren't clean, but in the end, they got it done. And a salute to Davis Mills. He probably earned that contract extension through next season just off of this game alone and off what he showed in relief. And he was a quarterback the last time the Texans were a joke, going 3-13-1, 4-13. But as a backup, just don't be a complete disaster. Started the game with the pick, complete disaster, but didn't turn it over again. And he's the winning pitcher of record in this one.
Yeah. The calls all day I found especially ticky-tacky, but the one that should have been called wasn't, which was when Mills bombed it to Higgins, and Higgins was completely hooked around the waist and couldn't get to the ball. That PI goes uncalled. So if you want to say karma, if you want to say makeup for the Jones PI in the end zone, then you can say that, or you can just say ref missed one or whatever the case is. But yeah, I did find the penalties a little ticky-tacky. The taunting, I mean, come on. Like, can you not celebrate in the NFL? You make a big hit and you look at a guy for 2 seconds.
If you do it, you're being selfish and or stupid.
Well, point of emphasis is my point of emphasis. That's a stupid call in this game, in this type of, like, you're running on adrenaline, you're hard hitting. It's a full impact sport, and you're going to penalize guys for like doing the natural thing.
Taunt, you're going to get called. Everyone gets it drilled into them. No fun league, so be it. But everyone knows a self-celebration you can get away with. But if you do something taunting, as Lassiter did, you should expect the flag to come.
It is a point of emphasis. It is by the rule, and it is weak. That's all I have to say about it. And going back to what you guys were talking about, how the offense almost blows this game. You had the the false starts, and then two false starts in that final in the red zone there, and then on Mills scrambles for the touchdown, and then drops the slow snap on the 2-point conversion. I mean, they really did try to give this game away. And, even with this miraculous comeback, however, there were some positive things out of it. Look, they're going to go to Tennessee looking to possibly bring their record to 500. This was a huge game for them. What did you see out of this they can build on going into next week?
Well, I mean, it's a one-off. Jacksonville's not that good. Still ahead of the Texans by a game, but the Jaguars, negative point differential. Trevor Lawrence is a mediocrity at best at quarterback. Josh, you referenced Brian Thomas out. I know he's had the drops this year, but he is their number one wide receiver. Defensively, I don't know. I wasn't watching the telecast being at the stadium. Was Josh Hines Allen's name called once? He's supposed to be their signature pass rusher, has 2 sacks this season. Trayvon Walker was the number 1 pick in the whole damn draft. He's the guy who lost contain on Mills on the winning touchdown. So exciting as all get out. And this was a winner. The season's over. If you are 3-6, 0-2 to the Jaguars, with 2 with the Colts, 1 at Kansas City, the Bills here, another one at the Chargers. So any viability for 2025 was riding on this game. Props to them for pulling it out.
Yeah, and I think my big takeaway is the Jags defense is not the Broncos defense. We saw what Davis Mills looked like against the Broncos, and I know he didn't have the week of prep time, but it was very obvious to me how much better the Broncos defense is than the Jags. But that's okay, because you don't have to play the Broncos in the regular season anymore. What did this game show me? If Davis Mills has to start again, I think they have a decent chance of beating Tennessee. They're not that good. Their defense isn't that good. So the other thing is the offense actually had a pulse. We saw the pocket moving around. You saw the run game working a little bit. You saw Higgins making some plays. To me, that's huge. You spend these high draft picks on these guys, and then you don't really use them. So that was getting frustrating for me. I like Xavier Hutchinson. We've seen him for a few years. He doesn't get open all that much, in my opinion. They needed to get some of these younger guys in there, and they're doing that. So maybe they can go in and beat Tennessee. I think they should be able to do that, whether you have CJ or you don't. And then hopefully you're 5-5 and the season starts over right there and you get Stroud back.
It would be foolish to assume the Texans are going to beat the Titans. They lost at home to the Titans last season. But if they go to Tennessee and mess the bed, the season's over, right? They'll drop to 4-6. That's another division loss for tiebreaker purposes. So for the hope for the season, we can assume they win to get to 5-5. And then the referendum game is that Bills game on a Thursday night here. The Bills have been kind of spotty over the last month. I mean, they're 2 games and a head-to-head loss behind the Patriots now in the AFC East. The Bills added nothing at the trade deadline. Ed Oliver, U of H, sidelined, injured. So the Texans will have an opportunity, if they win that game, to catch the Bills and take the head-to-head tiebreaker from the Bills, and then they'd really be in the wild card race. Getting back to 500 won't mean anything unless they beat the Bills. If they can get to 6-5, then whoa, they'll have really sat up in that coffin.
We've been harping on Nick Caley because the offense has looked bad. Do you think in this game, because we saw some sloppy stuff, how much of that was execution and how much do you give Nick Caley for calling a pretty good game?
I'm with you guys, the patient Sean. I mean, they had 6 minutes, so they had time to work with it, but running the ball against that weary Jaguars defense for several plays. But it's a one-off unless you stack them up.
Yeah.
Right. Bad teams can have good games. Good teams can have bad games. It's about consistency. It's about the body of your work. I don't think anyone believes Davis Mills is suddenly a starting caliber NFL quarterback. Yet in the fourth quarter, he led a comeback better than CJ Stroud has ever led. Better than a number of NFL starting quarterbacks have ever led. A 26-0 fourth quarter. So can you build upon it? Because for 3 quarters of this game, the Texans were garbage offensively, and throw in the special teams breakdown, giving up the early punt return for a score. But you're only as good as the final outcome. And so they had the quarter of franchise history at 26-0. But momentum is over, right? Take the field against the garbage Tennessee team and take out the trash, and then set yourself up for a real opportunity against Josh Allen and the Bills.
You hope they can build off of this, but Charlie's onto something there. Remember after the Ravens game, we were like, oh, wow, look at this offense. This is so creative. And they throw the touchdown to Jalen Noel, and CJ's throwing touchdowns all over the field. And then you saw what they did against the Seahawks after the off week, just awful. So they have shown that they can regress right back into that team that just can't pick up a first down to save their lives. But hopefully this will build some momentum. They see that they had success with these results. Let's keep getting the ball to our better skilled players. Let's stop relying so much on veterans and leadership, and let's just get the really talented guys on the field. Because at the end of the day, I don't think the Texans are losing games because they have a bad attitude or they don't want it enough. They've been losing games because they're undermanned up front. They did some things today to make some changes, so hopefully that will improve. I thought getting Patterson in there was a great idea. What took you so long? Tomlinson has been awful. You've had a rotation at left guard. I don't know why they didn't try this sooner, but whatever. Congratulations. They did it today. Hopefully they'll be better running the ball. And then to the Bills' point, the one thing the Bills are really bad at, stopping the run. So we've seen when the Texans can move the ball on the ground a little bit, set up that play action, they're a much more difficult team to deal with. So I think that could be huge if they could get the ground game going against Buffalo. But hey, you got to beat the Titans first.
I saw a lot of fans calling for Nick Casario's head, especially when the Texans were down big. This might alleviate some of that heat. I mean, at least if it's a one-off, then it doesn't. But if they can somehow use this as a bouncing point, a turning point, to be able to stack some wins, as you said, like Charlie, because that's really what's going to take. These winning games against bad teams, you're going to have to win a couple games, a few games against some good teams to be able to really have any shot of this season mean anything. But then, Josh, to your point, it's really like you're at such a turning point in the season. Why not try the young guys? Why not give those guys a chance? Why do you continue to rely on guys like Dare and guys? You've got these speedsters. Like, just see what they can do. If nothing else, you're going to need to see what these guys can do. You drafted them for a reason. Put them in and let them perform. Who were your MVP? Who was your MVP of this game, Charlie?
Well, I guess there are 2 clear choices. Josh, you want offense or defense?
I guess I'll go defense, Charlie.
All right, then it's Davis Mills.
Yep.
I mean, how can it possibly not be? I mean, Nico had big numbers, but you can pull that 52-yarder at the end of the first half. Yeah, well, he still had a 100-yard game. But it's Davis Mills. He was the punching bag for the week, the beacon of no hope for most heading into this game. And not that the bar was high to be the better quarterback on the field, but he was by far. And Twinkle Toes Mills getting to the left corner, winning it in the end with his legs. Come on. Has to be Davis Mills, at least offensively.
Yeah, and Danielle Hunter, what do you say there? 3.5 sacks, all the tackles. On that last play of the game, they used 3 guys to block him, which obviously allowed some other guys some opportunities. I mean, he was just killing them in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, they ended up having 3 guys on him, and he was still giving those 3 guys hell. I mean, just an incredible performance by him. His sack numbers are back to about what we would expect now. You know, one big game, and he can do something like that. So the Texans really do have such an advantage with him and Will Anderson that just other teams, they don't have that kind of firepower.
And here's to stupid hands to the face penalties.
Yeah.
A penalty by the Jaguars, because they were this close to field goal range, right? If they're at midfield, we talked about it in the preview.
Yeah.
And certainly with the roof closed, ideal climatic conditions, he was going to try it from certainly up to 70. Would he have tried it from 72, 70? I don't know what his absolute max possibility was, but that penalty took him out of trying it, and they ran out of time being out of timeouts.
And why were they in that position? Because once again, as good as Houston's defense is, they have a propensity to lose guys, lose containment, and let quarterbacks scramble for big yards at the end of games. They did the same thing. They allowed Trevor to get 21 yards with his feet. And like they had already pinned him back with the sack initially. And like you said, Charlie, that was a huge hands to the face penalty. I got to go with Danielle Hunter as well. I mean, 3.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss is just obviously a monster game from him. And we've been talking about how the sack numbers weren't there, and dude in one game just catches it all back. You know, bad team or not, it still takes a really good performance, especially when you're down big. I like the fight in the Texans defense. Even when they're down big, this team, especially on that side of the ball, does not give up. They put their offense in a position to win this game and to do what they did by continually keeping the Jags offense off of the field. Guys, give us your MVP of the game. Let us know your comments in the comments section here. We're going to be back on Thursday previewing Texans in Titans. So join us then. But until then, we appreciate it. Make sure you hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you ever want to listen to us on podcasts, we're available on all your favorite podcast platforms. Just search Texans on Tap. For Charlie, Josh, I'm Brandon saying so long. And until next time, go Texans, baby.